Hello everyone. I thought I would do something a little bit different than what I have been doing before, and to actually show you how I do some retouching. But to make it a little bit more interesting, I thought I would do a retouching from one of the models that I photographed back in 2006. His name is Bobby. They were taken with film, and I posted a few just recently onto my Instagram and onto my Facebook, and I thought maybe to sort of do something a little bit different, I would show you the process on how I scan the film into a digital file, and how I retouch. So I would just start with sort of the basics. I'll just give you a little bit of information regarding the film itself. The photographs I took of Bobby were taken with an f100 camera, film camera, a Nikon f100, and the film that I use is a T-Max 400. So it's got a fairly rich grain structure that I tend to really like. I have used other films before, but towards the end of my main time of using film, I really liked the Kodak T-Max 400. It had I could push it, meaning I could increase to an 800 ISO, and it had really good contrast that I could achieve through retouching. I'll just explain a little bit about the scanner itself. I have an Epson Perfection 3200 photo scanner. It's actually really old. It dates back to a long time ago, but it has served me very well. It has a film scanner capability on it. So I just dropped the mic here a little bit. Anyway, it has a really good feature where it can scan films, right, besides the flatbed. So I'll just show you a little bit of my setting here. I'm just moving things around so you're not entirely bored from what you see on the visuals here. But I'll just show you on the left-hand side. It's a scan to file. It will then, once you finish the scan, it'll load it up onto a location on your computer, and it's under transparency. You can see that on the left-hand side here, black and white negative. I am going to scan it in a 16-bit gray because my photographs are black and white. So it'd be 16-bit gray versus RGB. If it was a color image, I would scan it with RGB. And then just some other settings here. The preview resolution on this I'm going to set to auto. Scan resolution here I have it as auto, but the output I'll just show you here. I have a fixed DPI of 5400, so it's going to allow for fairly large files in the end. You can adjust it as you wish. And I have an auto name. It'll auto name the file, and it'll output as a TIFF. And I have no TIFF compression on this particular scan right now. So that's basically it. So what you see here in the center over here is a preview of the negatives that I have on that I've loaded into the trays. So basically, to get this to pop up, you just press the preview. I'm going to show this what happens. So when I press the preview, it'll just go through a scan of what I have. You can hear the buzzing noise, and there you have something pop up. And so this is really just the basic scan. I have not put any. Oh, I should mention that I do have some specifications on this area called color, and you can see on the left-hand side. So I just go through all the motions of putting in, okay, the film itself is Kodak, it's a T-Max 400, you can get to choose different kinds of film that you have. there's Ilford, Konica, Polaroid. So it's Kodak, TMX 400, and then I have the D76 CI equals dash dot 40. So basically, all I'm trying to get when I do this scan is get the resolution scanned in, and just let it scan to gray. I will do all the fine-tuning of the image actually in Photoshop. So as long as I get it to a gray, I'm not worried about too high contrast, like trying to get the perfect image in the scan process. I try to do the retouching and fine-tuning later on in the secondary process. But anyway, so I have chosen a photograph of Bobby. It's on the upper right corner here. So you should see it here. I'm just going to circle around. So here is the scan based on the settings that I chose over here. So here we go. We'll scan it. It's not going to take too long compared to some other scans that I've done before. This scan will probably just take a minute. It's going to take a minute. So, or even less than that. It'll be less than that. So it's going to scan. This is going to be a long video because I'm just going through it it's not something to rush through. We have time on our hands right now. I have time on my hands with the situation that is going on around the world. So, just chill out, relax, and you can skip ahead to areas that you think is more relevant to what you want to know about this retouching process of mine. But I think the thing that's a little bit different here is that this is scanned from negatives, right? So old-fashioned, traditional way of doing photography. These negatives are still with me, and they're in very good condition. They will have longevity that will, actually, to me, they last longer than external hard drives. External hard drives die probably on every other year basis, and it's really frustrating when I know that about external hard drives. I wish they made them better, but that's another issue. So here you can see what's coming up on the screen. It looks quite dark, and but it's just going through it. This is going to take a minute or two. It is slower, but this is how it happens. So just bear with me and let it go through. You can see Bobby's face coming up. I've done a few already, and I mean, I have not actually retouched this particular photo. It's really quite fresh to me, and I actually did a pre-scan before, and it's actually quite. It's got a lot of dust on it. I did not clean the negatives themselves for this demonstration because I thought I'm going to show you how I retouch. So. It's a different process than say than say if you're photographing through getting it direct from a digital file, because you will not have a lot of dust spots pop up. But this is because it's analog. The grain structure is going to be there. There's dust on the negative that normally appears anyway, and so we'll just show you sort of the laborious process of doing this kind of work. So it's almost there now. It's 99%. So there we go. So let's give it a second. There we go. So there you see an image of Bob. I'm going to zoom in a little. This is really just a preview. You can see how there's just a lot of there's hair over here, or some kind of particle, and you see that in this particular scan, it's very gray. I actually know a lot of other photographers who are using film. They don't do anything once it's scanned in, from whoever does the scanning of the image for them. They just leave it as is, and then they post it onto their website or onto Instagram, and they are done with it. I think that is, it's an idea, it's a way of, you know, thinking. I guess to them, they think that this is a kind of authenticity about how film photography should be, and I think that is a mistake. Once you have it just scanned in, you have to work on, you have to make the image to what it should look like, not just accept the scan, which is basically you're just allowing the machine to determine what your photograph is supposed to look like. And I think that's just a lazy way of looking at it. I think at this stage, this is when you have to make the photograph into what it is. And so all the photographs that I do are done in pretty much the same way, using retouching skills or retouching like things that I learned back in my university years and through my teacher. And so once you have the negative, from there is when you make the photograph into what it is. It's got to have the contrast. You decide what areas have detail, what doesn't have detail, and so yeah, like I would not accept this photograph as is. Maybe people might say, well, it looks good as it is, and I think, well, to me it's flat. It needs. This is where the artistry really comes into play. So I'm going to start retouching Bobby. This is actually a fairly nice pose by him, and one that isn't too suggestive. So, but anyway, I'm going to click this out, and we don't need this anymore. So I'm just going to hide that. And here, just give me a second. I'm going to find the scans, film scans. So here we have it. These are some of the ones I worked on before. So here's the one that we're going to work on. So we're going to use Photoshop. You see that some other ones that I've worked on here. So actually, like I've started working on these other ones, but I didn't think of actually doing the having this for as a demonstration. So until yesterday, last night, I was thinking I want to do something to just occupy my time a little bit, but make it somewhat educational, and so you guys can sort of see what the process is for me to retouch a photograph from a negative. So I think it's actually more exciting. You can see that. So. Yeah, so what you actually see here, the white portion is actually the tray, so that doesn't get any light passing through. So, so you can see the border. So I'm going to start. What I'm going to start first is not to is actually try to get the contrast the way I like it. It may not be 100%, but it'll be close to what I think is what I think is going to look good. So you can see the levels here. This is like the dark levels, the high levels. I'm using the curve function here. So you can see already it's improving already just by these just little bits and pieces here. You will see that the darker areas on the photograph before become darker, and the lighter areas become lighter. So that's just. So basically with this curves, I am just introducing a very simple customization to make it have more contrast. And then I think it looks pretty good right now. And how I judge it is based on my perception of what the light area should be on the skin versus the dark area on the skin. And believe me, like a lot of the times I will be looking at a photograph and I cannot achieve what I want it to look like based on the curves alone. I will have to go in and lighten areas and darken areas. Basically, it's called burning and dodging. But here you see it's like it's got this nice curve, and the light areas still have what I call detail, And the dark areas still have detail. Now what you can see pronounced a little bit more is these white spots. You see those areas over there. And I'll zoom up fairly close so you can see that the scan is at a very high resolution. Just to show you what the specifications are, the image size here. The pixels is a modest size. It's 3,480 by 5,033 pixels. And then on the pixels per inch, it's 5,400. But I'm going to knock it down to a 300 resolution, 300 pixels per inch, which is more normal for when you take it to the printer. And then I think what I'm going to do for the centimeters, I actually like to use inches because that's a smaller number and I'm a little bit old-fashioned. But it'll go back and forth. I'm going to make this about 16 inches by 23 inches. And that'll give me a good size to work with. So this will actually pump up the size of the image just a little bit. But I'm going to work with that. So I'm just going to go OK. And so there is a little bit of a shift. There is more pixels now than originally. But you see, if I get really close there, you have to go really, really far in to see the squares, right? So this is maximum. I can't go any closer than that. So I'm gonna do a little bit of retouching. I might stop midway through because it's going to get very, very long, but it'll show you what I'm going to do. I use a lot of the times I'm going to double click here, change it into a layer, duplicate the layer, and my retouching style is not like the retouching style that you'll see on the web. Most are using what I call fashion retouching. You smooth everything out to look like fashion model style. I personally, I have done that for certain jobs. See, I'm just going ahead here. It's like autopilot right now. I'm just starting to take away the major things, major blemishes, you could say. Yeah, it's an older-fashioned way of working about it, but it works for me. I have done some retouching whereby I'm using frequency separations, but I prefer this method when I'm working with film. It just seems to work faster. I personally don't need the sophistication that comes with that kind of retouching. I will have, you can see here, I will have basically an underlayer, the main layer, which is the original file, and then the retouch layer. And I use clone quite a bit. Just to explain, my cloning settings are, opacity is 23, actually what I'm doing now is actually the what do you call it? The healing tool, the patch tool. I'm using the patch tool for most of the retouching, and it seems very easy. So the patch tool, a lot of people will know it. I love this tool to do most of the retouching for this kind of work. But I will also use the clone tool as well. So with the clone tool, I'll do a few whereby I will clone. If I'm using the clone tool, I'll usually have the opacity setting between 20 and 30%. So I'm going to say 25% opacity. The size will be dependent on the blemish, but I'm just going to go a little bit bigger than what most of the dust marks are. So, sorry, actually the opacity is 20. I have it at 20 something when I'm doing something more fine-tuned, fine-tuning of gradation. So in this case, if it's just something very obvious, then I pump it up to maybe 9% or 80 to 90%. So you can see here. So that's using the clone tool. And sometimes the clone tool will be necessary to retouch. I'm going to make the hardness a little less prominent. So making mistakes in the retouching is quite normal. I'm going to go back to the patch tool. So the patch tool is my preferred tool over the spot healing and the healing brush. I think the healing brush does something really it distorts it too much. I don't know what the technical word is, but it distorts the grain structure too much. And what I have noticed is that when I do a scan of film, the grain structure is unique, right? The final thing is still a pixel, but you can see that it is a different kind of structure to film, and like the analog, and I can capture that feeling in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and retouch what I think looks good. So here's some, you can see over here. I'm not going to worry about that. That will most likely be cropped out later on when I finalize the image. So you can see. And if you are not rushed in this, it's very therapeutic to do this. If you're not rushed, I have to say, but some people have become very, very fast at it. I can do it relatively fast. The thing that I have to contend with is that my eyes will get tired looking at the screen. So I have a friend that does help me with some of the retouching of my Asian male work. Most of those ones that he will work on are digital files, so he won't have to deal with what I have to deal with now. And in fact, this friend of mine, he has not retouched a scanned image. This particular photograph, like I said, dates from 2006. Okay, here's a really nice piece of thread that probably came into play. So because it's kind of a wonky kind of a shape, I'm going to use the clone stamp to get rid of this one. What I have here. So I can use either. When you start working really fast, as if you probably listen to other retouchers, like you go on autopilot and you would go quite quickly over it once you get used to how the tool works. I'm constantly pressing. In this case, I'm constantly pressing the where you're cloning from into the picture, so it doesn't look too bad. Okay, now I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go opacity a little bit lighter, increase the size a little bit, and just smooth this part out just a little bit. I was going to do some classes on shooting portraits, but of course that got all canceled because I thought it was time for me to start teaching people maybe how I shoot, to carry on what I already know and offer it as classes. But all those classes were canceled because of the coronavirus situation, and so we have to contend with it this way. So it's coming along. It's looking pretty good. I'm gonna get rid of this guy over here. See it. Should I have music going on in the background? It's just, it's actually quite nice in the quietness right now, to be very honest. I have watched some other people's videos, and I find many of the times the music is just annoying. I find that if you want to learn, you don't have to be. I don't quite understand this full entertainment system. Like you have to have everything so polished. Maybe I'll become that way in the future, but I feel like if you want to learn something from someone, and I have watched other people's videos to learn how to do something I don't know how to do, and yeah, like I usually like it just quick and easy, get to the point, and no fluffy stuff, preferably. So in this sense, what I'm doing here is I'm taking my sweet time to do this, and you know, like this is the analog version, so it's even more, per se, time consuming. But I've got a bit of time on my hands, and I thought, well, maybe this is something that I could do just for the fun of it. But if people do like this kind of thing, then maybe I'll do a few more. But actually, can you? I don't know if you can see this. Like this is actually even the first time for me showing, you know, doing this recording video kind of thing. And you know, eventually it will be converted into another kind of file, which then will be uploaded into into YouTube, which is where I will disseminate this video. So Bobby's nose, just gonna clear it up a little bit. You will notice that I tend to keep the texture of the skin in my retouching. I will take out blemishes. Just this one over here. I'm sort of talking to myself. I actually don't like the sound of my voice when I listen back to it. So I'm as long as it sounds okay, you can hear what I'm saying, that's fine. I connected to a lav mic that I own. It took me about 15 minutes to figure out how to get it to work on the Mac, and it's working now. So hopefully it is recording. I think it is. I can see the sign. It is recording, but I might stop it midway through. We don't know. So yeah, I don't like to smooth out the skin so it looks like a plastic doll. I like to keep the texture there. I don't add and subtract abs onto a person's body. You either have them or you don't. I will modulate certain areas, like make areas darker or lighter, but that's sort of like a secondary step. That I'm more concerned right now to retouch it so that we get away the blemishes of either the skin that's really there, or blemishes, or dust marks in the negative itself when I scanned it. So you'll notice here it's quite light, right? So there must have been a bit of light coming from this side. Well, it is. It's actually, the light is from the right-hand side, roughly at a 45-degree angle above him. So it gives a nice shadow onto his face, right? So there's just some material at the back, but now I'm starting to see areas whereby, you know, there's a bit of string here. I can actually see it on my side. Let me get rid of that. Looks pretty good. So right now, the thing that bothers me is actually this whole section right here. It's too bright. I gotta darken that. I'm not so bothered by the wrinkles of the material, the curtain material that is behind him. I don't remember if this is which material it was that I had in the studio, but I think I take that back. I know what it is now. I can tell just by looking. I actually still have that material. So I'm just gonna do before and after. So hold on. So you can see the difference, original and the retouch. So it's just to retouch the blemishes out. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna actually duplicate this layer, and I'm gonna use the curves to darken the right side just a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna have to burn a little bit over even more on the right side. So burning will be on the shadows. I'm just gonna use a little, maybe 23% right now. I don't know if you can see on the upper left over here, but it's on the shadow. Exposure change will be 20%, and now I'm just gonna go on the right side. I'm gonna burn this in. Oh, it's a bit too much at one go. I'm gonna make about 10%. So just a few touches. Okay, now might backtrack a little bit. I'm gonna backtrack. I don't like that retouch. It's a bit too heavy-handed. I'm gonna go for the mid-tones and do the same thing again. Yeah, this is better. And actually I'm going to do a little bit of smoothing out of the wrinkles, just a little bit, and see what happens here. So you can zoom on. I am going to try to reduce it just a little bit, or smooth it out so that it's not as prominent. So you can hear my clicking away here. So I'm actually selecting from the left and cloning on to the right. So I am gonna reduce a little bit of this dark patch over here, but maybe not reduce it all, but just leave a little bit. So some of the big wrinkles can remain. It's really weird, like, because while I'm looking at this, I almost see a blue coming out, but there should not be any blue or purple, but it looks like that because I think it's just because of the way it's at a. Actually, I don't know, but it just perceivably it looks a little bit on the bluish or purple side, but it actually should be a pure grayscale right now. So I'm gonna go to the adjust curves again. I'm gonna pump it again a little bit lower. So I think that's pretty good. So that's the original. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to erase. So this is basically a mask. What I've done here, just going to make a mask. So kind of a lot of work just to get one area darker. So now I'm going to use the eraser and take away from areas that I think should go back to what it was before. So now I can actually play with it a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to erase it a little bit more. So this here I'm going to pull back. And you can see at the background here, this is where the the curtain was in the behind him, it actually looks good darker as well. So, but I can pull some of it away. Okay, this is the layer before. Let's see what's going on here. So that's the layer before. This is the overlay with the darkened piece on the side. So I'm going to pull this out. So if you saw what the layer was at the top, this is what it's looking like. So the eraser layer is at opacity 16. So just making just minor changes. I'm leaving most of the stuff on this side as is. I'm not going to change too much. Pull back that layer. So that's actually looking really good. Yeah, it looks very pleasing. Now I will admit that I'm working right now in the mid-afternoon, and you know, it's bright outside. I'm working in a more of a slightly isolated area, but I could come back at a different time of the day and look at this again and think that, oh, it's too dark, right? It is too dark, or it could be too bright, and I will readjust it. Just, you know, I will readjust the image so it looks a little bit different. So it really depends on the image itself. So I'm quite happy with this. There's still some fine tuning that I have to do, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to merge the two layers that I just did together, so that we just have one layer. Just going to do one minor thing here. I want a little bit more differentiation between the hair and the curtain in the background. So, so I just fixed that right now. So now I'm going to merge the top layer, the one that was basically the mask. I'm going to pull it down so it can be unified. And the other thing I'm going to look at here is let's see. So you see there are the abs here and the chest. This is actually pretty good the way it looks right now. I don't need to do much work on his abs and his chest, but I'm just going to accentuate just a little bit, like the darker areas on his chest, so the shadows come a little bit, just a little bit more. And then I'm going to lighten the mid-tones. So that would be Dodge by about 10%. So I'm just going to do just a little bit. Excuse me. I think everyone will freak out if I cough or sneeze. I'm going to come back in a second while I I have some tea here. I was going to get some tea, but I think I can do this. So you'll notice here his right cheek is a little bit. I'm just going to lighten up that bit just a bit. And I'm going to darken his arm where the shadow is. A bit too much. So it looks more round, it looks more three-dimensional when you do these kind of touches. I'm going to smooth out his chest just a little bit using the cloning tool. Just minor tweaks to his skin. But again, I'm not smoothing out his skin so it looks plastic. It's just more the blemish, areas that look like a blemish. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, I see some spots here I could use fixing up. Yeah, that's pretty good. He's wearing these denim jeans. I love photographing denim on black and white. It just, denim has such a beautiful texture. So, but denim is not so popular these days for attire. But okay, you notice this little bit right here. I think I'm going to try to remove it, make it look a little bit more natural rather than this clump. I'm not sure, but let's see. Oh, did you hear that? So gross. I don't care. I'm human. So I'm actually I'm circling a little area beside it. And I'm using the refine edge tool, so it's going to give it a little bit. I'm going to copy it. See if that will work. So you notice that it's a little bit brighter in this area. Place it over there. Okay, make it a little bit. I'm going to use the cursing to lower it so it's a little bit darker. So I'm going to remove some of the fringe area. So this is what that part looks like. You can see it now. Is it going to work? I don't know. Go back. And the thing is that what tends to happen when you do this kind of thing is that you tend to focus into one area, and then it's bothering you, and then you try to repair it, and then that's the only area that you're looking at. So I think that's not too bad. So I'm going to darken a little bit of this area. This must be so boring for you guys. Who's watching this? Because this is all just playing around and seeing if it works or not. You know, it could work, it could not work. And if I don't like it, there's no, well, that's actually there's no turning back, because I always have the layer underneath if I feel like it you know, the retouch didn't work. So I actually use that as the backup rather than saving every little bit onto the computer. So I think that works. Okay, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to merge the layer together. Yeah, that's better than what was there before. See the difference, right? So I'm going to make some, okay, I'm going to use the clone tool now. And just pull that just a little, just a bit. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I think this one is done. I'm quite pleased with it. I'll probably take a look at this later on in the evening when it's darker, and then the light in the room itself will change just a bit. But right now I think it has really nice contrast. There's dark areas, there's brighter areas, there's contrast, right? So there's modulation on the skin. The eyes, some people will make the eyes a little bit brighter. I'm tempted to just leave this as is. It doesn't look like it needs any kind of brightening. There's a little bit of something right here. I'm not sure if that bothers me or not. Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna save this now. I'm gonna save it as an LZW TIFF. And right now it actually is a grayscale, but what I'll probably do, if this actually really goes to print, this will be converted to CMYK. So the file will actually get much bigger. Actually, I'll do that right now. Let's just move it into, sorry, not CMYK, into RGB. I'm going to pull it to RGB right now. It'll still be 16 bit. So, let's just wait. If I do that, that means that the it'll have to merge. It'll have to merge. The layer. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to resist turning it into RGB. So we just keep it as is, as a grayscale. So I think that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed that. It's a long video. Take care and let me know what you think.